A lot of people are jittery about the economy. There's a war going on, there's inflation, there's post-pandemic, there's all kinds of uncertainty in the world about energy and everything else, and people are wondering what's going to happen. Well, I want to remind you, it was only 2.5 years ago that COVID hit, and it hit like a giant, humongous sack of bricks coming through your front door, and people were scared to death. I had written at the beginning of 2020, only 3 months before, this is the agility decade, and I've got a blog post about that, and half of the things I said have already come true, even though we're only 2.5 years into the decade. And I said, more than ever before, there's going to be black swan events, and you got to be able to move. And one of the things that stands out most in my memory is that with especially our Roundtable and Advanced Mastery Network members, we worked with them very closely. Some of them had no idea how are we going to pivot this business, and most of them came out just fine. In fact, most of them came out smelling like a rose. Quite a few of them did fine, and only a very few did badly. And even the ones that did badly, we still managed to make it livable instead of being a giant disaster. And it was because we worked with them so closely. And one of the things that I notice about people that are in a crisis is they tighten up and they lock down, and they're like, well, I think I'm just going to hide in my cave, and I'm going to wait for this to go by. And that is the wrong instinct. That does not serve you. 95% of the situations that I see can be resolved. There is somebody in the room who knows how to solve that situation. Us, some other member, but you've got to be paying attention, and you've got to be tight. It's really hard to help somebody if they've got their walls up and they're going to sit there and pretend that everything is okay. A lot of times you just got to get naked and say, hey, this is my real problem. A lot of times we're ashamed to tell people what our real problem is. And that's a suicidal impulse. When things are uncertain, and things are uncertain, there is no question about it. There are more variables juggling around any economist could possibly track. But my crystal ball for the next 2 to 4 years is it's opportunity time. And it is especially opportunity time for people who are opportunity minded and who are agile and who are not excessively married to the old way of doing things, whatever that might have been. It may be dead. The next 3 or 4 years are going to be a trend of expansion. And I do insist you have to have a good defense, and you have to be careful about how you spend money, and you have to be careful about how you hire people. A long time ago, Nancy Schlesinger told me a bad employee costs you 5 to 14 times their salary. I didn't quite believe her then. I do now, because I've had enough bad employees come and go. You can't afford to hire bad employees, but you can't just be on the defensive either. This is a time to be on the offensive.